All right, everyone, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Phelps from Jacksonville PD in North Carolina. 30 years experience in law enforcement, and wellness is something that is a huge priority in his life and within his organization. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Chief Phelps. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Paige, for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, I'm really excited to dive in. I know that wellness is really important to you, and I know that you're doing a ton of really cool and unique things within your organization and your community. So I'm really excited, but I want to maybe go back 30 years to the
Okay.
beginning of your career. What drew you into law enforcement, and maybe what were some of the key moments that shaped you throughout your career?
Well, I think my past's a little unique in the fact that not unique in the fact I'm a second generation law enforcement. What's unique, I think, about it is that my mother was a police officer, and being raised by a single mother, being around the not only the department but also just the mentality, and making sure that I do the right thing, and holding myself accountable as I grew up and made my own mistakes. I definitely looked up to her, and law enforcement is a calling. So I had thoughts of going federal, but my path kind of every time I looked at that, my path within my previous department just took me further down that road, and whether it be promotions or just other opportunities. And I'm very, very happy that I stayed the 28 and a half plus years I did with my previous department to have the effect that I had, in the changes and making things for the community and for the department better. It's just always been my goal.
That's amazing. I don't know if I've ever talked to anyone who said that their mom was a police officer.
Yeah, that's why I think it's unique. She was actually one of I think it was within the first five police officers for my previous agency, and through the 70s, that was definitely a very difficult time, especially for women in law enforcement. They were charting new territory, and to hear her talk about how things were, not only where law enforcement was as a whole, but just how females were treated, and what they had to do to prove themselves during that time frame. They were really trailblazers, the women of that era, in getting to where it is acceptable. Should be acceptable for females to be part of this profession because they bring tremendous value. We all have a different viewpoints, and we all bring great value and experiences to the job that can help our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I had a conversation with a female chief recently, and she started in the 80s. And she's talked about even just the simple things being challenging, like not having uniforms that
Yeah.
were made for women. And she was talking about how she had to wear like multiple tube socks to like fit in her shoes and, things of that nature. So I'm really glad that the profession has progressed and is, more open-armed to, introducing women in law enforcement. And I love that you had a role model that you looked up to and you followed in her footsteps. Were there any lessons, maybe even in the context of wellness, that she passed on to you?
I don't know, not necessarily in the wellness field. I do remember her when I first got accepted. She For Christmas that year, she gave me her old badge, and I remember having a conversation, and she just told me, so he promised me if it ever gets to the point that you're done, then just pull out. Just walk away from the job at that point. And that conversation really stuck with me because I mean, we all know what we don't well, we don't know what we don't know. And while she had the experience of knowing some of the things that she had gone through, not only as a female officer, but just the crimes that she investigated. She knew what the path I was about to go down. And that statement has always stuck with me is, okay, when you've had enough, you need to be willing to walk away for your own sanity and for your family and stuff. Thankfully, I mean, I think we all in law enforcement, we have that point sometimes in our career, sometimes multiple times in our careers, are like, why am I doing this? But then something happens and it just pulls us right back in, and it's like, this is why I'm doing this. And so it shows that we're not done. So I haven't had that one thing that said, you're totally done. And I'm just trying to continue down the path of making things better.
What a powerful message for her to share with you earlier in your
Yeah.
career. I think that's
Yeah.
incredible. I know you
Mhm.
said that there's been times where maybe you're like, why? Like, why am I still in this? This is so
Mhm.
difficult. And
Yeah.
was there a specific why that kept you going?
Um, I think most of us in this profession, we're just very driven to seeing the right thing done.
Mhm.
And I personally, and I hate bullies. And I think criminals are nothing but bullies. So when I see somebody being mistreated or being a victim, it really incites me as like, I want to make sure the right thing's done for that victim. So I think that's what's been driving, keeping me here is just, I just, I'm going to stand up to the bullies and to protect our victims, and in whatever regard that is, whether that's in the community or that's within a department, it's just making sure the right thing's done the right way in the best manner possible. That's a mantra that I have always held to throughout my career, and I still tout it today. It's the right thing, the right way, in the best manner possible.
I love that. The right thing, the right way, in the best manner possible.
Yeah, it's actually on my coin that I had developed as a for my chief coin here. So
I love it. That's
yeah.
great.
Hmm.
What are some of the things? I know that wellness is important to you and it's something that you really focus on for yourself and your organization, but from a personal individual perspective, what are some of the things that have helped you throughout the last 30 years to, manage the stress and the things that you've gone through?
Yeah, so I grew up playing sports, mostly soccer, my entire life. So I've always been fairly active and running. And when I got into this job, I knew I had to stay physically active in this field, and I wasn't going to let myself to kind of not be um, the couch potato or anything else. I like to stay active. So early on in my career, I not only performance in the academy, but also when I got out, I got asked to be a member of our part-time bike team. So I was like, okay, this is something physical. I can mix the physical aspect with the job. And then I got asked to put in for the SWAT team. And when I made that, it was just like, okay, now I have to have a certain fitness standard to meet every something that's going to hold me accountable. So I've just been driving. I drove that for the 16 years that I was on the team. And then sometime along the lines, you realize, well, not only that, being at the academy, I was as an instructor, I ran our physical training program for our basic law enforcement. And going to the National Academy, it reinforces again in older in life that you got to have the priorities of physical fitness and wellness overall. So, but I also realized, okay, not only is it the physical component to make sure I'm here for my family, but there's that stress component. And the higher I went up in the department, it was just like I need an outlet. I always worked out in the morning once I made to a day shift. I worked out first thing in the morning because I knew if I didn't get it in, by the time I got home, I wouldn't be able to do it because my kids, they had their activities and they take the priority. So I did that workout. But as they grew older, it's like, okay, I started going up higher in rank, and it's like, well, my stress level by the time I get home is still pretty high. So once I got back from the National Academy, I started doing two-a-days, doing at least 30 minutes of cardio in the morning just to get me going. And then by the end of my day, I end it with a workout in the gym of doing something. I try to be consistent on it. Obviously, days that we can't do that all, but generally I've held to that since I graduated the National Academy in 2016, and it's helped manage a lot of stress. I can tell you that.
And when we talked offline, you had this like concept or this statement of like front loading and offloading.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I I love that because I think that a lot of times we don't think about the proactive part, like the
Hmm.
front loading of it, you know? So you
Right.
saying like, hey, like I get up in the morning to like get myself going and prepare myself for the day because you know
Right.
that there's stressors ahead.
Hmm.
Like regardless of what role, or assignment you have, anyone who's working in law enforcement, there's going to be some sort of stress throughout the day. So
Right.
having that mentality of like, I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to prepare myself physically and mentally for what's to come. And to
Right.
me, that's building mental resiliency.
Hmm.
And you're training your mind and your body for that. And then
Right.
at the end of the day, you're like, okay, well, I just went through that stress that I knew that I was preparing for. And now I need
Right.
a way to kind of burn that off and to offload that. So I really love that concept of front load and offload. What would you say to somebody who has the statement of, I don't have time? Because that's something I hear all the time is like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, but I don't have time.
Well, anything, it comes down to the priority that you put on something. So if you say you don't have that time, it's okay. Well, that means other things are taking priority in your schedule. And if you're not going to make your physical well-being a priority, well, yeah, you're not going to have time. But you can always find that time in looking at the schedule, what your day is. Yeah, it's going to be an inconvenience if you've got an 8 o'clock meeting and it takes you, an hour or so to drive to work. Yeah, you're probably going to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do something to get that workout in, whether it's a run, walk, lift, whatever that is. But it's a sacrifice you make to be healthy, and to be consistent about that. And so just where you want to put that priority. If you're going to prioritize wellness, then you'll make that time. You'll take that sacrifice and all right, I'll sleep. I'll get up at 4. It's hard for some people. I get up at 4 every single day just to get my workout in. Sometimes they're not great workouts. Sometimes it's just going through the motions, but it's still that consistency to build that resilience, as you said. And I don't feel right if I don't work out in the morning now. You feel off, and it's just like because your schedule is different, and it's once you get into that routine, you'll feel much better about it.
And I think that to your point, wellness is trained behavior.
Hmm.
It's not convenient, and most of the time there's no motivation for
Yeah.
it. It's
Right.
not something, at least in the beginning, like when you're
Hmm.
starting it, and you and I talked offline, and I'm like, I'm looking at my calendar and I'm completely booked from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. And I could easily say, well, I don't have time, but it's like, no, I do have time. But to your point, I have time at 5 in the morning and,
Hmm.
6 or 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
It does come down to prioritization, but I also like what you said of like, it doesn't have to be the perfect workout.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be, this ideal hour-long thing. It could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Maybe you don't feel like you're working out as hard as maybe you would want to, but at least it's something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything is better than nothing. So
Um,
whatever you can get in. And sometimes the best workouts are the shortest ones. I mean, you do a hit workout, you get that high intensity, and it doesn't have to be long in duration. Now, if you've got other priorities, like some of the stuff I do off my personal time or long bike rides or long runs, because of things that I do, then yeah, I need more time to do things and rework my schedule for that. But I can still get a 20-minute, 30-minute workout in and feel good about myself and have the benefits of doing that.
yeah, 100%. I wanted to circle back to something you said before because I really find this really interesting. I've heard this a few times from, other leaders who say, I was on SWAT, and so
Hmm.
I had to be at an elite physical and mental level.
Right.
Why do you think that all the other assignments don't have that same mentality of like, I have to perform at an elite level, physical and mentally?
Um, I think when you talk about SWAT and K-9, those are the ones that typically have, or maybe the academy, that they have some type of physical requirement to them. People kind of put that up as well, number one, it's a volunteer position typically. You're taking on that extra responsibility, and those are very, very physically demanding jobs, more so than just your regular patrol officer or detective work. Not saying regular patrol officers, detectives aren't physically active, because I'm a firm believer that we are professional athletes. We get paid to do a physical job. We get paid to be physical, but we have to play the game mentally at the same time. So the the whole concept that they're at a higher level because they're constantly doing more physical, strenuous activities. Yeah, they need to have that physical fitness. Shouldn't take away from the patrol officer detective that there is a requirement that they have physical fitness not only for themselves, but for their partners and for the community that we serve, to be able to handle themselves and to be there for our community. Unfortunately, there is no national standard for police officers like there is for the fire department. Fire department can look at IAFF for standards in their health and wellness of what they need to do. Police departments, we got 18,000 plus jurisdictions in the United States, and we can't come up with a criteria for every single jurisdiction that could meet because of the a lot of different challenges that people argue, just community needs, um, type of work, because not all communities are the same. So it's a hard conversation to get through on a national level, even a state level, to be able to mandate that you have this certain level of physical fitness. And certain states have it, some states don't. But I think we need to have a baseline now. Need to have a baseline physical fitness to where you can do that. And if it's on an entry level, then that should remain the standard throughout the department as well. Because I see a lot of departments where they have a entry level standard, but once you are an officer, there is no standard. So the standard should be the same regardless, as you go through. So if you meet it once, you should be able to make it all the way through.
Yeah. And I love the statement of everyone in law enforcement is a professional athlete. And I
Hmm.
think that if you take ownership of your wellness and you have that mentality, no
Hmm.
matter what assignment you're on, no matter, what level or how long you've been in the career, if you have that mentality of like, I am a professional athlete, I
Hmm.
think that sets the standard, within
Hmm.
yourself of like,
Yeah.
what, I need to do these things so that I can perform at my best physically
Right.
and mentally. I can make sure that there's a level of safety,
Right.
and that I'm doing the best in my community and the best for my community. So I love that like mental framing of professional athlete.
Yep.
I think
Absolutely.
that
When we
that
get paid
can
to
lead
do the
you.
physical.
Yeah, and that can lead you through your career if the whole time. And I've been doing a lot of research on neuroscience, and there's actually science behind if you believe that you are something, your brain actually like rewires itself to be that.
Right.
So then it starts taking the steps. So if you're like, yeah, I'm a professional athlete,
Hmm.
then like your steps and your actions will follow that thought process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't mean you're the top tier professional athlete. We're not that, but we still are physical or professional athletes and get paid to do a physical job, and we got to have a certain level of fitness for that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not asking everyone to have six packs, but yeah.
No, no, or bench 500 pounds, or
Right.
run the 40 and a 4.2. I mean, no, you got to be able to do it though.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Well, I know that you're doing a lot of really cool things within your
Hmm.
organization. And some of the things you told me about are, you know, run and bike rides.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe kind of tell our listeners some of the things that you've done within your community, within your organization as it pertains to wellness.
Okay. Um, so my previous organization, I used to coordinate a lot of bike rides, soccer games, amongst other like firefighters and stuff, just to build that camaraderie. The 9/11 run was always a big one around the Pentagon. The Secret Service used to do a run around Police Week as well. So I've always been drawn to, okay, let me get people involved in this. And then I got involved in an organization, or Law Enforcement United, several years ago, and where we raised money for our fallen officers, remembering the survivors. And then we bicycled to DC, and from various locations throughout the nation, and up to the point of Police Week, and we turn all our money over to Concerns of Police Survivors. So it's that physical activity I've taken. I'm bringing it here as well. So I've only been here almost 10 months now. but every opportunity, softball games, kickball games. Yesterday, I participated in our torch run, our for Special Olympics. Ran the 7 miles for our leg the entire way. I'm getting ready to do another bike ride this weekend for Police Week. So I think it's important for me as the head of the organization that if we have an activity, I'm there. I'm there and I'm participating with them because I enjoy it. Number one, but number two, it's a camaraderie of bringing the department together. Because you'd be a little surprised when they look at hey, our chief can do this. It's like really? They, I'm a little older than some of the officers that participate, but that doesn't mean I can't get out there and have fun with them and see them on a more less formal level to interact with them because we all know seeing somebody in uniform can sets that stage a tone of a conversation sometimes, but having a conversation and when you're in shorts and t-shirts because you're working out or doing it, the conversation can be a little more personal sometimes and people take to that. So yeah, I'm any opportunity I can do, I'm gonna bring that be part of that and jump into that camaraderie aspect of it because I enjoy the activity, but I enjoy the people as well.
Yeah, and I think too, like, and I've talked about this a lot because I try to think about this in my life too. I think that you don't, maybe people don't realize
Hmm.
the impact that they can have on other people's lives and how you can set the standard and you can inspire people. And I think
Yeah.
by you coming in and saying, "Hey, this is a priority for me. I want to be there for you guys. I want to be running right there beside you." You're setting that standard of wellness, but you're also inspiring the younger officers to say, "Hey, like if I end up in this seat in the future, if I end up being the chief, like I want to do those things too."
Hmm.
Because my chief,
Absolutely.
and that meant something to me. And so I do
Hmm.
think it's a snowball effect that happens when you can set that standard. People will want to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with your statement on we don't understand the impact on people's lives. We really don't, especially those of us in leadership. It's when you get to that level, it's like you do or say something, and eyes are always on you, and people are watching what you do. So I want to make sure that I'm doing things right for myself first, and then hopefully that'll translate now all the way down if I do have that impact on somebody.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that, we have the ability to do that in a good way or a bad way. So I love that
Yeah.
you're like, you know what, like I want to do what's right and I want to
Hmm.
be that inspiration, but you're doing it by starting with yourself in an authentic way of like, I'm doing this because I care about it, and hopefully that'll translate and that'll kind of seep through.
Yep.
Also love the things that you talked about with building the camaraderie and playing on the competitive nature of first responders, because we know that you
Yeah.
guys are really competitive. And to me, when you say that, it really paints this picture of creating unity
Mhm.
within your community, within your organization, even bringing different organizations or bringing like fire and PD together. I think that that's really powerful because your jobs are stressful enough, and
Mhm.
a lot of times it can feel really isolating when
Right.
people are going through it. So to have those, kickball games or softball games or whatever it is that you're having, the bike rides, the runs, bringing everyone together for joy and for a good cause maybe cuts through some of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. People, they get more relaxed, and of course, and then they're getting the health benefits all at the same time. It's great. The fire chief and I actually we go back and forth constantly with each other, just on the competitive but fun nature thing. But that's translating down as well. Is that oh we're going to do this? Like oh, let's do it. It's because they want to that competitive nature comes in sometimes. But
100.
it builds relationships, and that's what this world is all about: is building the relationships with people. Because nothing moves without a relationship in this life. You can't get anything done unless you have a relationship with somebody. You got to connect with them on some type of level. And if physical fitness is or physical activity is one way of connecting, then it's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're also doing some things from a mental wellness perspective within your
Yeah.
organization. Can you share some of those things as well?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate that I have three therapists that are part of this department. The previous chief saw the foresight on bringing them in, not only for the mental health issue that we were dealing within the community, but we've translated, and some of their work does internal work as well. So they're building relationships within the police department to be able to provide services and to our officers when they need it at the time of need. And I recently just signed off on a policy because I'm a firm believer of this is to do check-ins, your annual check-ins on mental health. So the crux of this policy really is just, hey, you sit down with the therapist and you talk about whatever you want. If you want to talk about what's going on in your life, great. But I'm not mandating what the conversation's about. I'm just mandating that they put eyes on you, and hopefully can have that conversation and dialogue with the officer or professional staff member of like in communications that they're meeting with them as well, um, to be proactive about this, to be proactive about mental health issues. Unfortunately, my previous department, I went through four suicides of officers, bookend on two line of duty deaths. Mental health at that point became very, very important based on what we were going through. And I helped set up that resiliency center with my previous department. And I'm just taking that here and seeing what the experiences I had there and the benefits that it has to be proactive with my department here. I actually just signed that policy, I think it was last week, for implementation. There are going to be some units who twice a year we'll have to do check-ins. So our special victims, detectives, um, crime scene investigators, homicide investigators, crash investigators, they're going to have to see the mental health twice again because the volume of their work is more than the regular patrol officer. But you add all that together and then do any type of critical stress debrief on a specific incident. Just trying to be as proactive as we can with the mental health for the officers. And I think they see the benefits of it. But again, I'm fortunate that I have the therapist on staff to be able to do that. Most agencies don't have that ability, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle to make sure that we stay connected with our officers and helping them where we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you a question because,
Mhm.
I think that when it comes to wellness, sometimes it's hard to measure the ROI or the return on investment.
Right.
What are some of the benefits that you've seen that are helping you to measure the success of the things that you're putting in place? Like, are you hearing feedback that this is something that people really love? Are you seeing, a decrease in um, injuries or absenteeism? Is there any sort of like metric that you've seen that's been a result of any of the wellness programming, not just, the mental or the physical, but just any of it in general?
Well, when we talk about the just the mental health piece first, the only thing I asked in my previous organization was, "Are you being used?" I don't want the details what
Right.
the therapist but are they being used and how busy are they? And the director there, while it was slow at the beginning because there's a trust factor
Yeah.
of okay, why is command staff doing this? Why the way and just building that relationship and authenticity of the reasons why it's there. But also, I was one of a few people who were just very proactive about, yeah, I see them. I have my own issues, and I'm just to validate that they're there for you and they're for me as well. And I'm going to use this service, and I do use this service.
Mm.
That to me is again, as a leader, you gotta be the one taking that step forward. And I didn't do it just to for that benefit. I truly needed their services because there was a point in time where I almost committed suicide, and it was over personal stuff, but it was still one of those things that just because you find yourself in that place, it's not an indictment on your character, who you are as an individual. It's nothing more than like you sprain your ankle. You fix your ankle and you're back to work. You can fix need somebody to work. I did that. I've seen it done before. I've seen it done in my current organization because I gave that person the latitude and got them to help. And they're still working in a law enforcement agency today. No longer with me. He decided to move on to a different one, but it it was clear to me that the utilization was so positive. And I got a lot of good feedback from people, not only from that officer, but from other people who knew what was going on. Um, this is a change in culture here, so there's going to be some angst, I expect. But once we start to normalize it, I think people are going to understand that, okay, this is for my betterment. And once they know that, hey, if I'm in this issue, I can reach out. I'm gonna find out that they're busy. They're very busy, and that makes me happy. It really does. I want our therapists to be engaged and working with our officers, and because to me we're working towards a positive end of that.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so
No
glad
problem.
that you got the resources that you needed to help you through that time. And
Hmm.
I think that that's a powerful, and I'll say like quote unquote like metric to see like we built the trust and
Hmm.
people are taking advantage of it.
Right.
And that's all we need to know is that
Hmm.
people trust the system that we're putting in place and that they're actually benefiting from the resources. And you have direct experience with that. And so
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I do think
Yeah,
that
no problem.
that's an amazing indication that it's moving in the right direction and that people are
Yeah,
getting the help that they need. So
I
um,
hope so.
yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's the best you can do is hope that, it's working. But then
Right.
I think the feedback, like you said, of people using it and then maybe people who feel safe or have the courage to maybe come and tell you
Hmm.
that it's helped, then I think that that is what keeps everybody going.
Yeah. I think just being open about my own personal challenges as well has helped quite a bit because again, it's not about that I'm a leader. It's just um, it's building that relationship again, building that trust and giving of myself and showing that you can be in a dark place, but that doesn't mean that you can't come out of it and still be successful, still move forward, and that I'm going to be there to support them because I know what it's like, and to be there, and I'm going to do anything I can to help them. So again, it's to me, it's not about the leadership part. It's just trying to treat people and help them. That's all I'm trying to do.
I think that vulnerability is so powerful and it's so disheartening to me that it's gotten such a bad rep. I
Yeah.
think that historically it was always like vulnerability equals weakness, but
Mhm.
I think that vulnerability is one of our superpowers, that it's so powerful and it really can help people and it's relatable. If someone is going through something, again, it goes back to what we said before, like that can be so isolating. And I've been there in my own personal traumas and things that I've been through in my life where I felt like there's no way out. I'm the only person who feels this. No one could ever possibly know what I'm going through. And there's this isolation period that happens, and I wish that I would have had someone in my circle and in my life that said, I've been through it too, and here's what I did to get through it, and you can get through it too. I wish that there was someone in my life who was vulnerable and shared those things. I think it would have helped me so much. And it goes back to also what we said before of like you never know the impact you can have on someone's life, and by sharing your experiences and someone being like, wow, that's me. Like I've felt that, or I'm currently feeling that. Like that could drastically impact someone's life in such a positive way. So I really hope that vulnerability, that word is something that is um, praised and something that is viewed as strength
Yeah,
moving forward.
absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because I talk about that with my leaders. Is like that's the hardest thing you can do in life is to be vulnerable with somebody,
Mhm.
especially people you don't know. Is to stand up and just open your soul to them about something. But to me, the vulnerability builds that relationship with somebody. You find a connection because if you give of yourself, they're going to be more willing to give to you, and you can establish that relationship with somebody so much more. so it's faster. So it is the hardest thing you can do is to be vulnerable. And that to me, that's where it's at. That's where, again, where the relationships are born. And to have those connections, it's so important.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I appreciate you sharing that. I know we went through a couple different things in the wellness space that you are doing and prioritizing with physical and mental wellness.
Mhm.
What do you think is one of the other pillars or facets of wellness that is maybe overlooked in the law enforcement space?
So absolutely. To me, a wellness program, if you're doing one, has four pillars. It's the not only the physical wellness, the mental health wellness, where everybody's focusing on right now. Um, there's the spiritual wellness, which is depending on what area of the country you're at, can be very taboo. But I would think most departments have some type of chaplain program or something like that, or interaction with the churches. So while that's probably not a very robust aspect of it, it's at least there in some regards for most departments. But I really think the financial component of a wellness program is where we lack deficiency. And everybody's in a different space when it comes to finances, and finances are very personal to somebody at the same time. Um, but whatever resources that we can provide to, especially our officers, especially our younger officers, to kind of guide them and set them up with, so they can make decisions long term when they're first starting to set themselves up. Because when you get in this career, you're not thinking what's my life going to look like in 30 years. You're looking at, hey, what am I doing tomorrow? This is a great job. Um, but before you know it, and it sounds cliche, but before you know it, you're going to be 10, 15 years down the road and you're going to be looking back and say, I wish I would have set this up for my kids or for my retirement or anything else. So that financial piece, while there's a lot of resources out there, um, it's great, but to have somebody be knowledgeable about it and say, okay, let me sit down with you and kind of help. What does a budget look like for you? Or there's different programs. I know Dave Ramsey has one, the Total Money program that he does. I mean, just different things that we can bring in to help officers and our professional staff. Because I mean, when you start out, you're not making a lot of money, and where does that money typically go to the family and trying to support things? But how do we curb spending to live within means at the same time, because that's generally what people do is they overspend because they want it now and they're not willing to wait. I was there. I know that. I started making money. It's like, I want this, I want that. And I got myself in a little bit of trouble there. I was able to work my way out of it. But I mean, sometimes again, you go to sacrificing so that you can pay the bills. Um, but I think whatever we can do on the financial piece to bring those resources is where we lack a lot of. We have a lot of influence, but we have a lack of interest in going down that path a lot of times.
Yeah, and we know that financial strains cause so much stress,
Yep.
and then there's a snowball effect because if you can't make ends meet, then what
Hmm.
do? You try to work
Right.
more, and then you work
Hmm.
more and you have more stress and you're more burnt out and you're not sleeping as much and you're not with
Right.
your family as much. And so
Hmm.
there's this kind of snowball effect that happens. And the reality is that finance is not taught in schools.
Nope.
Maybe you can take some like finance classes in college, but aside from like you electing to do that, it's not something that's just widely advertised or taught throughout the school system. And so I mean, I can relate to you like and anyone who's listening to this, here's the thing. When you are young, you think you have so much time, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that at all. Like I
Hmm.
was honestly a disaster when I was younger. I was just like, whatever, like, and if it was cash, it was free, it didn't exist and all the things, right? And you just spend
Right.
it and then you are living, like you said, paycheck to paycheck.
Hmm.
And then you wake up one day and you are the old lady or the old man in the academy class. And it does happen where, like I recently was teaching an academy class and everyone was like 21. And I was like, it happened. I
Yep.
am, the old lady with the gray hair, and it happens fast. And you
Yes.
do look back on your life and say, man, like I could have done this better and prepared myself better for the future.
Yep.
And I think that with anything, any of the pillars that we've talked about so far, whether it's physical, mental, financial, the first step is awareness, right? The
Hmm.
awareness of the importance of it. Then there's education, right? Educating yourself on maybe how to do these things or why these things are important, what you can do to get in front of it. And then
Right.
the final and the most important step is action.
Hmm.
And I do think that, there's a level of ownership that has to happen with that of like, okay, well, now I have awareness, so I can't say I don't know.
Right.
I've educated myself on these things,
Mhm.
but education means nothing without implementation and action. So then the next step would be, okay, how can I fit this into my schedule? Maybe it's at inconvenient times. How can I make sure that once a year I'm doing a checkup or, I'm setting myself up mentally for the job. How can I do that? Offload and what was it? Offload and front load.
Well, yeah, front load
Front
and
load and
offload. Yep.
offload.
Hmm.
And then financially, what are some actionable steps that I can do now that are going to set myself up for the future? And
Right.
a lot of times, and again, I agree, talk with a professional because they can kind of see where you're at. Do you have a family? Do you not? If you do have a family, how big is that family? What are your living expenses? So kind of taking a deep dive, but there are a lot of really simple things that you can do to start investing and make sure that down the road, you're not adding more stress to your life.
Absolutely. I mean, the especially when it comes to finances and the investment piece, no matter how much you invest, as long as you start, you can never get that back. I mean, if you fail to start at the beginning, you're going to lose years of the opportunity of that interest or that money compounding over a time. So you got to start it at first. Whether, even if it's just $25, it doesn't matter. That's
Mhm.
$25 that's going to compound over years and give you something. And then as you grow through the department or your pay starts to increase, you take that percentage and convert that. I mean, there's little things that you can do, and as you said, to just kind of set you off a little bit better. It doesn't have to be, hundreds and hundreds of dollars that you're investing. Just a little bit, every paycheck will go a long way when you're sitting at the back end of your career, looking backwards. Well, I got a nice little nest egg here now to help me with my retirement.
100%. I heard something the other day that I really liked, and it said, the longer you wait to do the thing that you don't really want to do, so the
Hmm.
longer you wait to figure out your finances, because no one really wants to do that, right? It takes time and effort. And
Hmm.
the longer you wait to work out and create that routine, the longer you wait, then the less time you have to enjoy that thing. Like the
Absolutely.
results of that thing, right? So the
Hmm.
less time you're gonna have to enjoy that money, the less
Yeah.
time you're gonna have to like enjoy your physical body and like be able to move and do things with your family. So the longer you wait to do that thing you don't want to do, the less
Hmm.
time you have to enjoy the benefits of those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great way of explaining it.
So everyone that's listening, start today. I have two final questions for you.
Sure. Hmm.
One is, what do you think is still maybe the biggest challenge in the wellness space?
I think we're seeing a lot of departments and department leaders, chiefs, they recognize um, what needs to occur. I think we all know what needs to be done. It's in my realm, it's now, convincing my bosses to allow me the latitude to do this. Um, and I think that's the biggest challenge is like I would love to, be able to let my officers work out on duty. And but it's convincing my boss is what's the benefit here? And um making sure that I can articulate it, that we're not going to miss a beat or anything else. And it's some people have especially those that aren't in the profession, they don't understand the need for it. So how we articulate that can be a significant challenge, or getting us the resources to do this, whether it's gym equipment, because it's on a lower priority versus I need to buy 3 or 4 new cars this year. And that's my priority. So, um, and finding, so not only talking to our bosses about it to get their buy-in on it, but the financial component within a department budget, because a lot of our police departments across the nation are small.
Yeah.
That we're not the NYPDs, we're not LAPD, where we have millions and millions of dollars. A lot of departments are 10, maybe 15, or even smaller, and they don't have the access to these resources to buy this equipment. So as a chief, you got to go out and be creative. You got to rob Peter to pay Paul, and horse trade a little bit with whether it's a community member or the schools or anything else, just to kind of you know give the opportunities for your officers. And not everybody has that ability. There's some realms I'm good at. There's some realms that I need somebody else's help in. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to try. But to me, that's the hardest thing right now is getting certain personnels and governments to kind of support you in the actions or endeavors that you want to go down. And then, okay, where's the financial resources to be able to provide that? It's because we're all finances, unfortunately, constrain us a lot. Even the large departments, they constrain us quite a bit on our ability to do the things that we want to do for our officers.
Yeah, and I think that most people would probably be surprised to like know that you have a boss. Like when you're like, I have a boss that I have to talk
Yeah,
to, you know?
absolutely.
I wonder if, and this is just really just a question mark,
Mhm,
because I think that, like you said, leadership knows that this needs to be a priority. And that didn't happen overnight either. You know, there was a
mhm.
time where this wasn't really focused on and really wasn't a
Right.
priority. And I think through awareness and through education, then
Mhm,
that, became a priority to implement and to take action. I
mhm.
wonder if some of the people who maybe still need convincing, maybe that's what's lacking is, maybe they should be in some of the conferences and see some of the stats or, be in the room of having more of that awareness and education. I don't know. Question
Well,
mark.
I think it comes down to their priority too, because I mean they see things through their lens. So
Yeah.
where they may not be physically active, but so therefore the experience or the awareness piece, as you said, they just don't have that because they're not seeing it through that lens. Everybody's personal biases on things pulls into this, and that's a hard thing. Is okay if I'm talking to a police leader who has never prioritized working out, what's the chances of them prioritizing it for their department?
Right.
Because they don't see the value in that. So I think you're seeing that where the younger generation, my generation, and the other one coming up, it's like, okay, I want this, I want this. Once they get into that position now, they can be the change agent. So that's why we're seeing some of these changes now, because 20, 30 years ago, I didn't have that opportunity. It wasn't like that. It took time to develop this piece and get into positions to where I could affect this change. We're going to see it with our younger generation now. They're going to want certain things, and it's going to be, 10, 15 years probably now where they start to take in the leadership roles and they're going to enact changes through the lens that they see. So that's another hard part is, the getting people to see through our lens, because they just don't walk in our shoes,
Right.
to be able to understand why we want the things that we do, or sometimes why we need the things that we do.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. And I think too, sometimes it's hard to convince people to pay for things on the front end so
Mhm.
that you don't have to pay for it on the back end. It's kind of that
Right.
front load, offload type
Oh
of
yeah.
thing. It's like, well, if you're not prioritizing it on the front end, then you're going to see it on the back end and the
You
result
definitely
of
will.
that. So,
Yeah, you definitely will.
well, my last question for you is in the context of wellness, what advice would you give to someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known earlier or something that's helped you along the way?
Um, oh, that's a loaded question. That's um I learned this young, thankfully, for me, that consistency is key. No matter what you're doing, being consistent is so important. So whether it comes to wellness, how you interact with somebody, is being consistent is very, very important. Nobody likes to talk to somebody who is constantly up and then down, and it just the relationship is very hard to develop with somebody who acts like that, or you never understand where their decisions are coming from because they're all over the place. I learned young just to you need to be very consistent, not only in how you treat people, but also in what you do.
Mhm.
And I think to me, I know that has served me well. I when I was at the academy, I know if any of my future or former students listen to this, they know I was a hard ass because I wanted something better for them. I wanted to push them, but at the same time, they knew when they came to talk to me, they knew exactly the type of person that they were going to get, no matter what the issue was going to be. Whereas some other people, they're like, I don't know what I'm going to get from that person. So to me, that was the biggest compliment when I got told we knew where you were coming from. We knew you were going to be consistent in things. And I've tried to maintain that all the way through, because it's important how you treat people. People don't remember what they do, but they remember how you make them feel. And I think that's very, very important, especially in this line of work. So I think if anything, find that consistent routine, no matter what it is, because that'll keep you from fluctuating as much as possible, fluctuating your schedule, fluctuating, I can't work out here. Try to be as consistent as possible.
I love that. Consistent with your routine, consistent with your actions, consistency with your messaging and your
Mhm.
demeanor. And to the point of, being consistent, not being like too high or too low.
Mhm.
A lot of conversations that I have in this leadership space is surrounded by kind of that idea of stoicism too, of like,
Mhm.
try to be level, try not to be
Mhm.
too high or too low, be
Right.
consistent. And that helps you
Mhm.
as the person, but it does help everyone around you. I think those are great words of advice. So
I appreciate that.
thank
Thank you.
you. Yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate
Of
it so
course.
much. Like I said before, I was looking forward to having this conversation because I think you have a lot of unique perspectives. So thank you
Thank you.
for spending an hour with me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Of course.
Mhm.